Technical University Eindhoven, the Smart Cities Innovation Space Project welcomes you for a live broadcast of our 5th event in the Smart Cities series.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Smart Cities event. My name is Elke. This is already the last event of the Smart Cities series, and today we are going to focus on smart cities and health. So welcome, everybody. And the main question of today is, how do we keep our smart cities healthy? My name is Elke, as I just said, and I am from Innovation Origins, which is a media platform. And today you watch our broadcast from our YouTube channel. That means also that it is a live stream, so you can ask all your questions in the chat if you want to, and we will try our best to answer them. And now I will give the word to Iris, who will tell you more about today and about smart cities.
Yes. So also welcome for me. My name is Iris, and I'm the project manager of the Innovation Space Smart Cities project, subsidized by OpenSite. And in this project, it's a combination of a lot of companies or organizations, TUI Innovation Space and Innovation Lab, Brainport Smart District, Ominous Internet Bureau, Technobroker, and the student teams CASA and Virtue. And together we aim to start a smart city learning community, because we believe that if you aim on students and we try to give them some challenge-based courses, so that we try to put real case problems into the hands of students, they will learn a lot more than just if you learn some theory, and then they are also more prepared to go in the real world and solve the real problems later on after their studies. So that's what we try to accomplish. And also for the companies where they work for, they have a lot more, they get a lot of information from students, which usually are way more creative than and have a lot of out-of-the-box ideas to solve the problems of the companies. So in this project, we also have a webinar series. We already have had 4 before. You can find them also on YouTube. And this is the last one. And I would like to give the word to Richard.
Hi, good afternoon. Richard Bijlaert from Technobroker, one of the partners, as you heard, in this program. Together with Frans van Bever, who is in the studios at Innovation Origins TV, I'm responsible for the technology, and I hope everything will work out today, the last time for our event series. If you have any questions or any remarks, please put them on the chat channels next to the YouTube channel which you are looking at, and we will be able to send your questions directly to the speakers, who will answer them live. So, okay, welcome. And
then we will first start with Carmen van Veelstra. Carmen is the chair of top sector Life Science and Health at the university, and also director of health at the Eindhoven University of Technology. And she will tell a bit more about the health initiative that is starting at the university.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmen van Veelstra. I'm the chair of the top sector Life Science and Health, and I'm also the director of Health for the Eindhoven University of Technology. I would like to give you a brief introduction and also a little bit of context about how we can keep our smart cities healthy. And to do so, I will also give a little bit of context of the different speakers that will follow in the rest of the sessions. So if you look into a little bit more than 100 years back, and this also shows a success of a number of things that I will come back on later, our life expectation has been quite a bit extended. So on the left side, you see 6 generations. To put this into one picture, you need Photoshop to get it in about 100 years ago. And at the right side of this slide, you see 6 generations with a little bit of help, or I'm not sure that all generations are even happy to be on the same picture. But anyhow, you can have 6 generations in one image. And that's actually the increase of 40 years of life expectations in the last 150 years. And what is the cause of this extension of the life expectations? That is not so much the improved medical domain, so our care and cure center, but it has to do much more with the infrastructure of our living environment. So the fact that we have clean water and the fact that we have sewerage, riolering, and not everybody has their own toilet somewhere in their home, but also things like improved working conditions and education has played an important role. And another important element is also our social systems, because we know that people that have limited amount of money have more difficulties to keep themselves healthy. So our social security systems did also help in that. And in fact, only about 50% of this increase of life expectation is due to improvement in medical and medical technologies. So you see here that the increase took about more than 100 years. If you look into the changes that our smart systems like smartphones did influence the way we're living, you see here the inauguration of two of our popes, recent popes, and there within 8 years you see a complete different picture in how we are experiencing this event. But not everything is moving that fast. You can see this on the next picture. Changing our behavior is much more difficult and takes much more time. So that is also something that you have to be aware of. So in the Netherlands, our government has embraced a number of long-term missions to improve and to work on our social challenges. And health and care is one of the long-term societal challenges that has been embraced by our government. And we've also set some missions to work on together. And the central mission is that in 2040, we want all citizens to live at least 5 years longer in good health. So not only live longer, but also in good health. And that the inequalities in this has been reduced by 30%. Because right now that's actually the most difficult thing to change. The healthy life expectation of people in a lower social class has been 7 years shorter than people in a higher social class. Well, to work on this, we have broke this down into a couple of submissions, and the mission lifestyle and life environment, of course, is very relevant for the topic of today. But also the availability of care anywhere is also an important topic, and that's also one of the moonshots of the Eindhoven University of Technology. To realize this, we are moving from what we called in the past the triple helix to the quadruple helix. So real collaboration with the citizens, with scientists, knowledge institutes, with entrepreneurs, but also with policy and lawmakers like the government. So to make the vision for 2040 a little bit more visible, this kind of future images are developed, and this is the future of health for 2030, and especially our lifestyle and our life environment. And of course, I'm pretty sure you cannot read everything in there, but I will explain a little bit. So on the four corners, you see again the four most important stakeholders: citizens, government, knowledge institutes, and companies. And the main topics that you see here is how we can prove both visible and invisible things in our infrastructure. So for instance, what is the next clean water thing that we have to develop and will be influencing in a positive way our health? But also education. Start with young people, give them in a different way, educate them in a different way and in a different environment, and also integrate playing much more in our education system. What you also see is that the balance between physical and mental health is becoming more and more important, and I've already mentioned the health environment also in a broad way. And we also very much realize that every person is different, so you should also offer the possibilities for persons to personalize the way they want to live and they want to use or take benefits of our health system. And we still have a lot of questions about that. So also monitoring the development of our health, but also monitoring the effect of certain interventions is very important. So in this whole future picture, the whole system should be a learning system that is also based on data. And we know, of course, already a number of examples and groups, initiatives that fit very well in that. So here you see, for instance, a social innovation in districts. Of course, the Brainport Smart District is a district that's very well known to this audience, I think, and the digitalization is an important aspect of that. But also in the north of Eindhoven is a big, what we call Rotterdam. That is an area where the citizens take care of their own communication about all aspects of health, and there also the government, like the Eindhoven the city of Eindhoven has been more and more involved, but also assurance companies, and they're all working from what is the exact need of the citizens and what kind of services they would like to have, and how can they get their own, how can they make their own decisions in what they want to use and what not. And if you zoom in a little bit, then you also, of course, see a lot of things around the environment, which has to do with the healthy environment, with aspects as green, but also possibilities to help people to keep themselves physically healthy. So on the left side, you see a certain district that has been monitored how people are running in the district and how we can improve, for instance, by lighting, but also with other things that people are using it to its full possibilities. And you see that also on the right side. So what is the influence of the environment of how many people will run during the day and during the night, or during the evening? I also mentioned already schools, and here you see still an old-fashioned building, but the vision is that learning should be taken much more place also outside the school, and the school and the environment should be developed in the same time. Because if you want to make, for instance, healthy food in a school, there should not be an unhealthy shop or whatever on the next corner. Yeah, that's of course a very simple example, and actually we do not exactly know yet what is the best healthy school. We don't have an exact picture of that. So this is only a picture we already know is not good enough. But what is exactly the best healthy learning environment? We still are developing in a number of living labs, like also the living labs are already showed and mentioned. And we have to learn from that, measure and monitor and improve it in the next phase, and also of course expand it. So small experiments should not stay small. We should distribute the knowledge also to the rest of the Netherlands, but also to the rest of the world. I already mentioned, and I think that's also part of the smart cities, the digitalization is an important part of that. And of course, COVID has speed up a lot of the use of digitalization. But if you dig in a little bit further, you see that the main thing that has been improved or has been changed is the fact that we are doing more digital consults. And about 80% was during the top of the COVID was done by telemonitoring. Well, you can say that's a huge achievement. On the other hand, you can also say, well, we're using technology now in a more medical domain, which we're already using everybody in his private life. We're already using all kinds of calling also with images and with movies for at least 10 or more years. And only now, because of COVID, we're going to use it more and more in the medical domain. And so that's still, you can say, quite limited if you compare it with what is actually possible from a technology point of view. And also, to really bring the monitoring at home, that's only been very limited, even during Corona. One of the examples where it did speed up was the study of the health dots. So that is a product that's developed by Philips, and we also work with Philips in this context in MTech. That's one of the collaborations of the Eindhoven University of Technology together with Philips and also the Catharina Hospital. And there we are, after people are treated, for instance, for a cardiac disease, they can go out of the hospital and in a limited amount of days, and they will be monitored in a safe way by using this health dot. So this health dot is monitoring vital signals, and a doctor can judge the signals and call the patient only if needed. And the patient can get much faster out of the hospital and stay in a safe way at home. And I think one of the next presenter will also come back to that, which is one of the topics within the Recover at Home team. This is another student team, and I think you already have seen it also, but also there, of course, is a health component. So how we can design homes that are comfortable, but also the promote the healthy lifestyle, and what kind of activity should we get data from, and how we can feed that data back to the citizens and to the inhabitants of this nice home to improve on their work style themselves. Last example I want to mention is sensors that were also presented later. How can we measure in a very simple way our own health status, either on a specific topic or on a broader topic? All these elements, I think, are part of the future healthy cities. For that, we need we are acquiring a lot of data, and we have to share this data in a proper and also, of course, in a safe way. Patient, but also citizen privacy is an important topic. But if you look into the amount of data, that's really enormous. So I did Google earlier this week, COVID Corona data, and I got over 1,000 million hits. And this hit has to come from COVID time, so this is within 1.5 years. If you Google cardiovascular data, you get about fifth. Well, this has been, of course, the result of all kind of publications and all kind of stuff that's put onto internet in the last, well, almost 20 years, or even perhaps more than 20 years. So you see there's an enormous explosion of data, and how to share that in a proper and also in a safe way is, of course, one of the challenges we have to cover. Well, all these topics I just mentioned are somewhere in this image, and will be also presented in the rest of the day. And if you want to see a little bit further, you can look on the website of Health Holland and look in these future images. So with that, I would like to conclude. I wish you a very nice rest of the event, and please also keep working on your own health yourself. Thank you for your attention.
All right. Well, that was the presentation of Carmen van Veelstra about the health community. That was a great talk. So I am glad to introduce you the next two speakers, Georgia Moses and Hilde van den Broek. Georgia Moses is from Eindhoven MedTech Innovation Center, and Hilde is a student of the TU Eindhoven. She's a student industrial engineering. And one of the things they will tell you about is about the student challenge of 2020, which is about innovation in the recovery process of COVID-19. And they will tell you more about innovations regarding recovery at home. So have fun watching.
Good afternoon. This is Giorgio Moses from the Eindhoven MedTech Innovation Center. And today I'm joined by Hilde, who will be introducing herself. Welcome to this Smart City seminar presentation, where we will be talking about Recover at Home. But as I mentioned, I'm not alone. I'm here with Hilde. Hilde, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Hilde. I'm a student at the Technical University in Eindhoven, and I'm studying industrial engineering, and I'm a big part of this project.
Fantastic. And I'm Giorgio Moses. I'm one of the challenge owner when it comes to a student project. And that brings us to the context of the presentation that we will be giving today. It is about challenge-based learning. And in 2020, we formulated a challenge around the recovery process of COVID. Because as you may definitely know, in 2020, the start of the pandemic, one of the main challenges that we were looking for. So today we will be talking about Recover at Home, one of the outcome of these student-based challenges. Hilde and I will be zooming into a very specific use case addressing quality of life. And we will be talking about some of the innovative solutions that are coming out of these student-based learning projects. So let's go back to 2020. At that time, there was a tremendous pressure on our healthcare system. There was many patients visiting the hospitals. The hospitals were overloaded, and it was a big challenge to really get the patient throughput right. And at the same time, from a patient point of view, people had to go home and recover by themselves. But there was something about the recovery process that was not optimal. And Hilda, as you remember, we wrote this challenge and we set it out there. And I guess maybe you can briefly tell us what was so interesting about this challenge, also from a smart city point of view, and what was interesting about this challenge, and tell us more about the students that were engaged in this project.
Okay, I think the most important thing about this challenge is that it really looks into the future. So due to Corona, we saw that there need to be some changes to also make it more usual for people to recover at home. Because when people go home to recover, they don't always get the help that they need to recover fully, especially with Corona, when there are a lot of people recovering at the same time. And I think that's just like an idea for the future that we really should take into account.
Excellent. And what was very exciting for me is how your student team basically tackled this problem, because there was so much information out there, but you guys took a very deliberate data-driven approach. And this slide shows a summary of some of the data points that you guys have gathered, because by the time we created this slide, this is already outdated. You have probably much more data point. Could you give a brief introduction on how did you go about understanding the problem and understanding the needs of all the key stakeholders in this problem domain?
Yeah, so actually we did some interviews, like a lot of interviews with some of the people that are in the student team. And we talked to people that are recovering from COVID, but also like people from the hospitals that are working there. So really we got a lot of different people that we spoke to, just to get a broad idea of what is happening right now. So we can understand what the needs will be for this target group.
Yes, and this was especially impressive because all of these data points were gathered during the COVID pandemic, where everybody was super busy. And the people we were interviewing were people who were at the front line. Are there any interesting story that you can pick out to, put color to some of these data points? Like any stories that you've heard that was very intriguing or especially inspiring?
Yeah, one of the main things that really stuck in my mind was that someone told us that she felt alone in the recovery process. Well, a lot of people are recovering from Corona, so feeling alone wasn't something that would be my first guess that people would suffer from when they were recovering. But they were like, the people in my surrounding, they don't understand what I'm going through. And at the same time, a lot of people are going through the same thing because they're recovering from COVID, but they don't really talk to each other that much. I mean, there are some Facebook groups, but as a lot of people are recovering, it would be good to have like a bigger society that focuses on this, and also people that are recovering from different things. So that was one of the main things that we found, that people felt alone, misunderstood, and just that this was only focused on like the physical aspects of recovery, but not how they felt about it.
And this is very interesting, right? So a few things that I learned from this. One is when you're looking at trying to understand the needs, it's not just the end user of your future system, like we're just talking talking to patients, but we also talk to other key stakeholders who are involved. For example, the nurses, for example, some of the people that are maybe not directly affected, but are definitely influencer in this ecosystem of influence, and understanding where the pain points really are. And the post-processing of this was very interesting, because as stated on this slide, and one of the key learnings for me was when we're looking at the rehab process or the recovery process, we tend to bias towards the physical aspects of rehabilitation. Like you can walk again, you stop coughing, or whatever aspects are physically in nature. We tend to focus on that, but you kind of hinted on that earlier, Hilda, that the psychosocial aspects are not well covered, even though they may be equally important, if not more important. Elaborate a little bit on that so that we kind of understand why we're zooming, especially on the psychosocial aspects of the recovery process.
Yeah, because psychosocial aspects, they influence how you feel, and they also can motivate you or demotivate you. And motivation is very important in recovery because you have to work for it yourself as well. And if you lack the motivation because, for instance, you feel alone or you feel unheard, then it will be even more difficult to recover by yourself. So that's why focusing on the social aspects is very important. It will just give you another boost to improve your recovery process.
Yes, absolutely. And from my side, what I found interesting was this is not just valid for people who are recovering from COVID. This is also true for people recovering from almost any disease. If you're discharged from the hospital and you need to find your way back in society, you may be physically equipped to do that, but the question is, are you mentally equipped to do that? And how do we evaluate these kind of things? Which brought us into a very interesting aspect of healthcare, which is the quality of life. And this is the less tangible side of healthcare, right? Because as you can imagine, you can measure physical aspects of recovery. You can measure heart rate, whether or not you can do 1,000 steps a day. All these aspects are basically objectively measurable. When it comes to the psychosocial aspects, it's not that clear cut. And this is where it took us into a very interesting journey in quality of life. So before we get into that, can you briefly describe some of the components that are required to bring, let's say, offline recovery into the online world? Because this is probably not something you want to do face-to-face with every patient. You would want to digitalize this in some way, right? So when you propose this solution or these solution components, could you briefly describe what we're dealing with in terms of complexity?
Yeah, so especially for Corona, it's not very useful to go to everyone's house that's recovering because there are a lot of people recovering. So therefore, it will be good to have an online environment. So what we thought about was some sort of platform. There you can check your measurements and do some questionnaires, things like that. And also have some kind of forum that people can talk on to each other to feel less alone. And also some information about what's happening with Corona in the world, just so you get a more broader view of what is happening. And of course, a clear treatment plan with physicians and a complete overview for your mental state, just so you know how the recovery also from your social aspects will go. And information collection. Like when you do the measurements, we'll also collect those information and make a charge out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and key to this is the data that really connects everything. And part of this data acquisition happens through smart devices, smart connected devices in some instances. But there is also one aspect that is very much traditional still. And these are the relevant questions that you need to pick up, especially if they're subjective of nature. So when you look at quality of life, you want to look at the things that you cannot measure with a specific device that it is already in existence. Then you'll have to fall back to questionnaires. But then we took upon us, like, we have to change these questionnaires and turn them into something that is also relevant in the digital space, right? And when we look at quality of life specifically, these standardized questionnaires, they usually have different aspects that constitute your quality of life. One aspect are the physical domains. So these are, your ability to function from a physical aspect. So you could use accelerometers, pedometers, GPS, heart rate to collect those data, meaning that you don't have to ask them in a traditional questionnaire. I also like the idea of social connectedness, which is part of your quality of life, and that you could use alternative data to determine that aspects of quality of life. I found it interesting that also in your environmental aspects, so where you live, also determine your quality of life. So that covers a lot. But then you have the psychological effects. And there is one student group who zoom into, well, can you use objectively collected data to determine the psychological effects? So, for example, your sleep data could be highly correlated with psychological aspects. In other words, this brought us into the digitalization of the standardized questionnaire. So instead of filling them in with pen and paper, you could basically turn them into a digital interface, and the interaction would give you a lot of ideas of what the quality of life of the person behind the system is. And zooming into this, Hilde, what I also found interesting, if you take, for example, the short form 36, which is one of the standardized questionnaires to measure quality of life, one aspect that I really liked is that if you zoom deeper, you could see the physical aspects of assessing quality of life and the mental aspects of assessing quality of life, right? And then this brought us to the space of, if you have a questionnaire, which is a very traditional medium, and you turn that into the more of a future medium, such as virtual reality and sensual reality, there is much more that you can capture. Would you like to elaborate on how did we make this leap in our innovation journey?
Okay, so we were thinking about like the questionnaire list, like the SF36 questionnaire. It's kind of subjective, and you want to objectify all the measurements. And in order to make it objective, you have to measure certain things that kind of can be faked. So for instance, your heart rate. And by using this emotional fitness test, you can also like measure the heart rate, or other things like how much your pupils have dilated. You can see from another side what is really happening and what kind of effect it has on you. So it will be more objective.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the beauty of assessing someone in a virtual reality environment is that you capture much more than the answers to the question. But for example, the biological response while answering gives us a lot of insights in the emotional fitness. And why this is important, as we were discussing this with one of our hospital partners, they were mentioning that your emotional fitness is also very indicative for your future adherence to your rehabilitation program, which is quite interesting. Also, as I'm learning from you, from the student team, I'm learning that a questionnaire doesn't have to be a linear process. It could be what you guys adopted, a reflective questionnaire. Could you briefly describe what that is? So you bring me into, I can fill a questionnaire from question 1 till question 10. But what would be a reflexive way of dealing with this? And what kind of new insights do you get?
Okay, so the difference is kind of that we can follow up with the question. So when someone gives an answer A, we can give a follow-up question to really dive into that certain answer. And it also will mean that when someone takes this questionnaire again after some time, we can look at the changes, but also look back and compare. So it's really more in-depth questionnaire. And yeah, it is reflective because you can really go in depth when someone answers a certain answer.
Fantastic. Now, of course, we've been talking a lot about all these aspects of the recovery process from COVID, but it could also be from other diseases. We talked about the assessments that are paper-based and that we want to turn into the new media, from virtual reality to sensory reality, meaning that you extend not just what you see, but also what you hear and feel and smell into the assessment. And I guess the question remains for the audience here is, how does that fit in a use case? And you and your team developed a nice video to give an idea of what the future workflow would be and how these new innovations fit in. I'll give you the opportunity to run us through this video, and you give the voiceover. Yeah.
So these are two people working in a workspace, and they were exposed to the coronavirus. they start showing symptoms like coughing, and so they get tested to see if it's corona. Symptoms can become worse and you can end up in the hospital. Of course, you will get treatment there and hopefully you can fully recover from the virus, but still you have some additional recovery to do. That's where Recover at Home comes in. We try to help you when you want to recover at home. So when you leave the hospital, you will go to a virtual reality experience. This virtual reality experience is the emotional fitness test. This kind of gives you an insight in how it would work. So for instance, you can be on the beach to get a more relaxing mindset for a better recovery, of course. And then when you go home for the second part of your recovery program, there will be a package waiting for you from the Recovery at Home process. You can just set it up on your laptop and it will open a platform. Then the cycle begins. You can monitor your vitals through our device that we will supply. You can do exercises provided by healthcare physicians and talk to your physicians. Then they will just adjust your program according to your progress. Then the cycle will continue for quite some time. You can also share your story with your community, so you can all update your fellows on your progress. This will continue until you're fully recovered from corona.
Now, this is wonderful, and this highlights a few things about this approach. One is that we function in an ecosystem where we have the challenge owners, people who represent the clinical domain, we have people who represent the technology domain, and people who are really zooming into the use cases that fits these challenges, so we can combine the solution with a problem that really exists. We're coming towards the end of this. Hilde, I would like to thank you very much on behalf of MTIC, and I would like to congratulate you and the student team on what you've accomplished so far. And again, from MTIC and their partners, we would like to thank everyone who tuned in. Thank you very much. And may you have questions or you want to help to bring this to the next level, please feel free to reach out on the information that are displayed here. Thank you very much and see you next time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We're joined by both of you as well. And we're going to ask you some questions. And the first one is, what is the limit of recover at home? What is possible and what is not possible anymore?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for these questions. I'm glad I'm here with Hilde to answer these questions. As we are exploring, we do see that there's a lot of potential. So in terms of the patient population that we can address, I would say the sky is the limit for now until we see certain limitations in the technology and in the approach that we're taking. Instead of looking at the limitation, I would say the opportunity. As mentioned in the video, right? We start with COVID patient, and now we're seeing that we can expand that beyond the COVID population to people who are basically in a rehabilitation program for cardiac surgery, for example. So we're seeing that we can extend the groups, and I'm sure there will be a limitation in terms of how far we can go with this. But for now, it seems like it's sky is the limit, as long as the patients require the types of solution that we're working on.
All right, and yeah, I had another question for you because yeah, you already told us that well, you mainly focused on the recovery of COVID, but that it's also possible to extend it to other illnesses. I was just wondering, what are the challenges with that? What is possible to convert to like other illnesses, and what are going to be the challenges with it?
Yeah, very good question. Hilde, you wanna address this one?
Oh yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we were also looking into using Recover at Home for other diseases. Yeah, it will of course take some slight adjustments, for instance, with what you can measure. Because I mean, for instance, when you have diabetes, you want to measure different things than when you have a whole different kind of disease. So that's more in the details, like what you want to measure. But effectively, the recovery will still look a bit alike. For most illnesses, it's still important to keep healthy. So to exercise a lot and to see your doctor, and also to have some sort of community so you don't feel alone in your recovery process. So I think the basics will stay the same, but like more the detailed measurement tools, they will change.
Yeah. Do you maybe have like one example of that? One example of the difference?
Yeah, just like I mentioned, for diabetes, you want to measure different. You want, for instance, to measure glucose. And I think when you have some sort of brain disease or something that you recover from, or some sort of surgery that you want to recover from, that might be less important.
All right.
So yeah, those kind of differences.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Any
thanks.
other questions?
Yeah, one from the chat. Have you thought about solutions for older people that are alternative to the regular paper questionnaire? Older people that are not familiar with digital media.
You know, that's a very good question. And it's something that is a recurring question, especially if you're long in the industry as I am. I'll rewind back to 2008 when we started with digital innovation for elderly people. And back then we were saying, well, elderly people use mobile phone and iPads and all that stuff. Fast forward now, I see my mother, she maintained a very vivid WhatsApp group, meaning that she became very tech savvy. So the idea that old people don't adapt to new technology is not something that is always true. The same is true for what we're seeing here. So moving from paper-based questionnaire to new media, I'm sure that if the proposition is well designed and we take all the limitations that comes with, being an elderly person, we can definitely adopt these technologies so that it will be used eventually. It's just that we need to make sure that the proposition is correct and the adoption will follow.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, thank you. So I have a question for both of you. If you could dream, where would you want to be with Recover at Home in 5 years?
Great question. I'll let Hilda go first, ladies first, and then I'll try to wrap that up.
Okay, so in 5 years, of course, personally, I hope that we would have some sort of product already available and hopefully on the market. But I'm not sure how big you can dream, because you never know what will happen. But yeah, that would be a dream for me, that we can really expand and also focus on other diseases in the future, and really have a working product that a lot of people can use, and that we can keep innovating and look for more possibilities to even make it better.
Absolutely. And if I can chip into that, I would like to dream in 3 dimensions. One is on the human resource. As we mentioned, this is a student team. 5 years from now, I would hope that from our top management in a startup like this, that the CEO, the CTO, and the chief marketing officer comes from our student team. For example, Hilda being one of those chiefs. That would be a great outcome, because that's what we're trying to stimulate. From a clinical point of view, I hope that we broaden our scope, not just COVID patient and cardio patient, but to a broader spectrum. And from a solution point of view, I hope that we do have cutting edge technology to really look into the psyche of someone answering a question, so that you just don't get the answer, but whether the answer is trustworthy, and you can have additional information about the psychosocial aspect of recovery. Because as I mentioned in the video, right, this is one of the key discoveries, at least for me personally, that we also focus on the psychosocial aspects of recovery. If we have these 3 things, like a good team coming from our TUE students and the related student groups, and we have a good proposition and addressing the translation of how we ask questions to patient and how we tap into the mental, the psychosocial side of things, that would be a great achievement if we achieve either one of these. But you know, in the ideal world, this will be 5 years from now. Recover at home, the startup with students from the Technical University in Eindhoven and the ecosystem with Fontis. And we are in all the hospitals in the Netherlands. That would be fantastic.
I totally agree with you. I really hope in 5 years we can watch this video back and we see that it all happened.
Great.
Yeah, one more via the channels. You were talking about quality of life discussion. Do you plan or do you have already data before the COVID situation so you can check the after COVID recovery?
That's a good question too. Hilde, you want to pick that up? Because maybe I could start. So we started this challenge-based learning exercise right at the start of COVID, because the reason for that was that we anticipated the pressure on the healthcare system, which is still the case, right? There are many scheduled surgeries that we still cannot do. And this might be an ongoing problem with the healthcare system to catch up with that. So the whole pandemic influenced our quality of life, especially if you're a patient. Access to care is not that obvious, and the recovery process is also not that obvious. So getting data from before that period was a little bit challenging for us because we just started within the pandemic. And I guess with Hilde and the team, they gathered a lot of data points, but this came right in the middle of COVID and as we move on.
Okay,
so it's
you plan to do it in the future, this as well?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question from a data analytics point of view, to have historical data to benchmark that against. So we will take that as a suggestions to improve our data that we're basing our decisions on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much for your very interesting presentation. And the next.
Yeah, and then I will tell a bit about the next presentation. It's Bram de Moor from You to Yourself. Bram de Moor is the founder and CEO of You to Yourself, and You to Yourself develops methods and algorithms where they can monitor biomarker profiles and they of individual people, and have fun watching.
Hello, my name is Bram de Moor and I work for You to Yourself. In the next 15 minutes or so, I will be presenting you the personalized health monitor for early disease detection we are developing. You to Yourself, our company, was founded in 2018 in the beautiful eastern part of the Netherlands in a town called Enschede. I founded the company together with my companion, Dr. Johan de Rooij, who has a background in tumor cell biology. Our company is based on the premises of the University of Twente in a building called the Gallery. We work together with a great group of people who have background in statistics, bioinformatics, and health technology assessments, and we work together with the University of Twente and the Amsterdam Medical Center. We also have a biobank, and for that we have 2 great IT specialists and database specialists. We also have an advisory board consisting of 3 people, and one of them is Julia Herman. She has a PhD and is an expert in medical ethics, so she helps us with the ethical questions we have regarding our monitor. Dr. Hinne Rakhorst, he's a surgeon, and he helps us with the medical challenges we face. And we also have Dr. Michiel Pechtel from the Amsterdam UMC, and he advises us on the science and the technology. Okay, the problem we are facing today is that cancer and cardiovascular diseases are detected late, and when they are detected late, they have a poor chance of recovery, and the cure costs are high. In fact, and these are quite striking numbers, that when you are between 45 and 75 years old, you have a 27% of developing a form of cancer, and an even higher chance of developing a form of cardiovascular disease, which is 60%. And these are quite high numbers. And since we are altogether getting older, the population ages, these diseases are responsible for very high costs, and the national healthcare systems have even more problems nowadays to cope with these costs. Next to that, of course, people are afraid of the fact that they don't know that this disease is developing inside their bodies, which then is possible that it will take them by surprise. And for that, we have the following solution, and this is our health monitor. All organs have a specific set of biomarkers, and these biomarkers are constantly shed into the blood when the organs are healthy, but also when the organs are unhealthy. For instance, when they are developing a cancer. What happens is that these biomarkers will go into the bloodstream, and then through the kidney, these biomarkers enter the urine, and we envision that we can collect this urine and we can analyze it in our laboratory. Since the biomarkers we are looking for and analyzing are all organ specific, you can see on the left hand side, you can see these small clouds. And there you can see that they all have their specific set and their specific cloud, and these are all organ-specific clouds. For instance, if we take the green arrow, which is for the prostate, we did analysis on plasma and urine, and there we could see that if we look at people men with prostate cancer, their specific set of biomarkers really looked very differently from healthy controls. And if we can compare that with the standard of care currently, which is PSA, which is the red line on the right hand side, there you could see that the specificity of our test is even better than the current standard of care. We did not only analyze this in prostate cancer, but also in lung cancer. And I don't want to discuss all the data and literature there is on this subject, but there is enough proof that in multiple cancers, but also in cardiovascular disease, our analysis prove their value. So what we want to do is, as smart citizens for the future, have people collect their urine in the comfort of their own home. In a later slide, we are looking at developing technology that can make that even easier and better, but let's save that for a little bit later. People collect the urine in the comfort of their own home. It is sent to the laboratory where we isolate and profile and analyze the biomarkers. And with that, we develop algorithms for the disease detection. The interesting thing of our health monitor is that it's personalized, and we always compare you to yourself. That's why we also have the company's name called You to Yourself. And we develop a baseline when people are healthy. So when they become ill, we can compare their baseline and see when the disease is starting to occur. And we do not only do that for one single disease, we are able to do that with multiple diseases at the same time. So it's not a single disease solution, it's a multiple disease solution. After analyzing the urine, it is stored and saved in the biobank, potentially for later use, but also for different analysis for different studies in the future. So the value of our health monitor is important. It's personalized, and therefore it has a very high sensitivity because we always compare you to yourself. And as said, we can analyze multiple diseases at the same time. So the sample series we collect of the people, when they're healthy, but when they're ill, they contain a very specific onset of the disease. And the biobank we are developing, we currently already have around 1,100 people in our biobank, is since it's longitudinal, so for a longer period of time we collect the urine, is unique in the world. In the future, we are developing a health app where the data is safely stored. So when people remain healthy, then they continue to lead their lives. When changes occur in their biomarker profile, the health app tells that, and people can conduct one of our doctors and for advice, or maybe to go to see a doctor in the hospital. So currently we are developing the Euromon, we are conducting the Euromon study, which is the basis for our health monitor. I already told you that we already have around 1,100 participants currently, and they're all taking part in the Euromon study, and it's an ethically approved study by the University of Utrecht. Participants enlist online, and when they have registered themselves, we activate them, and they will receive their first urine kit at home. And with that pot of urine, they go to the laboratory and they hand over the pot, and there it is analyzed, and they receive a new urine kit for in 3 months. So people participate for 2 years. Every 3 months they give their urine, and once a year they also give blood. Since it is a study, we are still investigating which gives better results, either blood or urine. In the future, of course, we hope that urine will give better results, since it's far more easy for people to collect and to send to the laboratory. They also hand in health questionnaires, so that we know how people, if they smoke, the amount of alcohol they drink, what their BMI is, etc. So all our samples are stored at the Stibion biobank. It's an open source biobank, and all anonymous. And the interesting part of it is that other universities in Europe, they can, if they are doing research on early detection of disease or health monitoring, they can apply for samples from our biobank. Of course, the people in the informed consent have to say that they agree. Of course, they can also say, I don't want other universities or research groups to use my samples anonymously, but around 98% says, yeah, that's I find these subjects very interesting, so And since it's a very unique biobank, it costs a lot of money and time to develop this biobank, why wouldn't we hand it over as an open source database for other studies? So the development depends on the number of participants in the Euromont study. Currently, we have around 1,100 participants. Due to COVID, we are a little bit behind on schedule, but by the end of the year, we still hope to have around 1,500 participants. And so people start when they are still healthy. And yeah, statistics show, I showed you the earlier slide, that automatically within the age of 45 to 75 years old, around 7% of the people in those 2 years when they participate, they become ill. So currently we have around, and this data is correct, around 25 people with a form of cancer, and a little bit less, around 20 with cardiovascular disease. But with these numbers, by the end of the year, we hope to have a proof of concept, which we can develop into a prototype, when in the next years we can increase the number of participants to the study. And then automatically we also have a lot more people who have developed a form of cancer and cardiovascular disease. If we look then 2 years more into the future, we have even more participants and more data for the validation of our first product. So, for whom we are developing this health monitor? First of all, if we look at the potential customers, we look at health-oriented individuals, smart citizens. Next to that, also companies offering, for instance, health programs to their employees. In the United States, this is already very, very normal that companies do this. In Europe, not so much yet, but this is an interesting development to look at, and so of course we are doing that as well. Third, also national healthcare systems. When our monitor has proven itself amongst the early adopters, the smart citizens, then we envision that also national healthcare systems, health insurance companies, find this a very interesting new product to look at. And why would customers be interested in our health monitor? As said before, for consumers, we know that already around 10,000 consumers yearly go to private clinics for scans and to get a health check, and this gives them a peace of mind, and of course early detection of disease when the cure is still possible. The difference between currently what happens in these private clinics is that there they look at a healthy individual once a year and they hope to find something. We are able to look at multiple diseases, since the biomarkers we look at, they are shed once again into the blood and then into the urine. And since we have 3 months samples, we are very easily able to follow this without people having to come to the clinic every time. They can easily just send their urine. For companies, it is interesting because it gives them employee vitality, and of course it also prevents loss of workforce. And for the national healthcare systems, it slows down the increase of the healthcare costs. Yearly, the increase is already 1 billion. If we are able to detect diseases early, we hope to lower these costs drastically. So how do we see the developing of our health monitor in a smart city like Brandenvoort? And we work together with the Brainport Smart District, and next year when the first new people will enter their homes in Brandenvoort 2, we are also going to conduct our Euromon study there. So, and the three main pillars we decided upon together with Brainport Smart District is, of course, data, not only the sharing of data, but also the protection of the data and the ethics behind that. The participation, so not only the participation of the people who are living in Brandenvoort to the study, but also how is it possible to bring the health monitor to the market. We would like to discuss that with the people who live at Brandenvoort. The ethics, we like to discuss that with people at Brandenvoort, so that they are really embracing this new idea of a health monitor. What do they think of it? So really participating, co-creation and developing the monitor together with the people at Brandenvoort. And of course, our main subject is not building the houses or how are people living in the houses in Brandenvoort, but it's health. So healthy living. If you are able to every 3 months collect your urine, bring your urine to the health clinic, and also fill out questionnaires about your health. Of course, that does something to your mind, and it should help you increasing a healthy living style. I think I already named a few of these. So really together with the citizens of Brandenvoort, co-creation of new products. People always will be the owner of their own data, but anonymously this data can be shared to get better results. And ethics, we discussed, very important in our subject. And also for the future, how are we able to integrate our health monitor into a healthcare system? What does an insurance company think of that? We would like to, in the Eindhoven area, discuss these subjects, not only with people who live in Brandenvoort, but also with companies around it, the University of Eindhoven, Philips, but also healthcare companies. And specifically the TU Eindhoven and Philips will be interesting for technology development. In the US, they are already developing smart toilets that the technicians from the universities are able to analyze urine and feces from the toilet to give the people instantly an answer. Hey, you have some blood in your urine. What's wrong? Can we help you? It's also connected to a smartphone. Next to these smart toilets, you can think of developing a lab-on-chip analysis. Currently, we do all our analysis in the lab, but maybe we are able in the near future to develop a small lab-on-chip that analyzes, for instance, the most important 50 biomarkers that we find in the urine. So yeah, health monitoring in smart cities. What we envision is a proactive healthcare approach. Currently, our healthcare we see as pretty reactive. You only go to the doctor when you feel ill, but then yeah, in some cases you are already too late. We want to prevent that, to develop our health monitor to give our healthcare approach a proactive one and personal peace of mind for smart citizens. So this was my presentation, and we are open for any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, right. That was a super interesting talk of Bram de Moor. So now we continue with a Q&A of Johan de Roy. He's also of You and Yourself, and he's the CEO of You and Yourself. And yeah, we're going to have a look at some questions. Welcome, Johan, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit more about, is there like a certain development in your field that you are at the moment super enthusiastic about?
Our own development, obviously, but I think there's many developments currently that allow people to track or to follow or to monitor their own health, right? So there's wearable devices, and nowadays you can even do a cardiogram on your wearable device. Yeah, I'm enthusiastic about all of these developments with the caveat that they have to be good. If they're not good enough, they only create, a run on healthcare providers. Yeah. This is, of course, something we would like to prevent happening in our case.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Another question was, what kind of people are participating now in the program, and is there a need for some certain other people as well?
So what we are looking for is like really a reflection of the society, right? Aging society, so young people are not so interesting or involved. We ask for people above the age of 45, and this is exactly what we get. We get a complete random section through the Dutch society.
That's very nice. And where do you want to be with You to Yourself in 5 years? What's the dream?
Well, the dream goes beyond 5 years, but in 5 years we're quite far ahead with the dream. We would like to have, we should have a first product, a first version of a health monitor available. So we will not claim at that point to detect any disease that you may get, but the big diseases, the big forms of cancer and cardiovascular diseases, that's where we would like to be in 5 years.
Okay, I've got some questions from basically people that are potentially new Brainport Smart District inhabitants. First of all, they ask, how big will the group be that you're going to monitor at Brainport Smart District, and how can people interested enlist themselves?
So to answer the first question, as big as we can get. In the end, we're aiming to include 10,000 people in the study. So that's way more than there are going to live in Brainport Smart District. So if everybody wants to participate, then everybody's welcome. The way they can enlist, we don't know yet. This is something we're discussing currently with the organization of Brainport Smart District. We haven't set that up yet. It can always be done through our own website, but I think for Brainport Smart District, we will build something extra.
Okay, so you'll get that later. Yeah, probably another question that is also from the same community. They ask, can you send the urine samples via normal mail, like at the moment the bowel cancer test, which is currently done on large scale for people above 55, or do you have to deliver them at a certain fixed location point?
For now, for the study that we're conducting, you have to deliver them, and you have to deliver them at one of the prikposten from in the eastern part of the Netherlands, Metlon. We're working on a solution that can be sent by mail. Obviously, that has to fit through a mailbox, and a urine sample is a lot bigger than a blood sample or a stool sample. So this is in development. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So let's go to the last question, which is kind of a critical one. So I think that health monitoring is really awesome, and we're going to need it more and more in the future. And I think nobody can deny that it's super important. But at the same time, how far can we go with the monitoring of health? Because if we're going to use more and more of these systems, maybe the whole society is going to be I am a little bit afraid that they're going to be super focused on health and on monitoring. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, I can elaborate on that. Obviously, we would like to achieve the opposite, right? That people are not don't have to be focused on their health or worry about their health all the time. What we would like to achieve is that people have an ease of mind, peace of mind about their health by monitoring them and giving them the security or the peace of mind that they will be detected or warned when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
I think as an individual, if you enlist for 10 different of these kinds of services, should they be there in the future, you'll probably go mad. So I agree with you that there are behavioral, ethical, even societal issues and even financial issues involved in this for the whole system. So at Y2Y, we are working together with the University of Trenton currently, but this is also something that we would like to implement in the Brainport Smart District development to collaborate with citizens that would use this in the future to understand what it is they need to use these services in a good way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, also with professional, ethical scientists to understand what are the ethics behind, understanding or detecting disease early, because there's not always something you can do about it. So these are things it's in progress. This is a new development. We don't have definitive answers on everything yet, but it's a very good question that we will.
Yeah, well, it's really great to hear about what you were doing, and thank you so much that you answered all of our questions, and thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go to our next guest of today. We're going to look at a video of student teams census and test. So today, those are two different student teams. And Vera Middelkamp is from the student team Census, and Sanne and Damme from the team Test, and they will dive further into the world of biosensors, or in other words, a sensor that measures a molecule in the body in order to get to know more about a certain disease. So it's super interesting, and have fun watching.
Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Vera, and I am here representing Team Census. And together with Sanne from Team Test, we are here to give you a presentation about the importance of biosensors. So in the past century, we've made tremendous advances in medicine. You can think of antibiotics, of imaging, of so much more. And it would be too much to go into any of that right now. But what we do know is that a big impact or a big factor in these advances are the integration between natural sciences and engineering. So between health and technology. Over here you can see some of the examples of the last couple of months, actually, headlines from the papers that show this integration, this field. So for example, the malaria vaccine hailed as a potential breakthrough, or COVID, rapid home test kits to be available for workers, or even a transplanted heart that was kept allowed outside of a body. It's a really fascinating and fast developing field. And if you think about it, technology and health are already so much intertwined in our daily life. I mean, I think some of you will have an app on their phone that counts how many steps you take each day, or even counts how much you sleep. Now, it's a really broad field, but the point that we really wanted to discuss today are biosensors. So to get into that, I want to explain a little bit about what a biosensor is. A biosensor is an electronic device that measures some kind of molecule within the body to tell you something about health and disease. The molecule that you measure in the body is called a biomarker, and it can be taken from a drop of blood or from saliva, or the biosensor can even be worn in or outside the body. Biosensors can optimize treatments, reduce unnecessary hospital visits, and enable self-management of health and disease. This all sounds a little bit abstract, but we can also give you a couple of examples that I think you already know. You can think of continuous glucose measurements for diabetics, or the COVID test that we all know, but also a pregnancy test is a good example of biosensors that already exist. Now, every biosensor consists of a couple of different parts that you can see over here. So it consists of a disposable device in which molecular recognition takes place. So the biomarker that you want to recognize is recognized by certain recognition elements, and this generates a physical or chemical signal. Then this is transported into a signal that is, for example, electrical. And this can be transferred to a reader instrument so that it can actually tell the user something, so that the user can do something with the measurement. So as I said, a biosensor can be a little faster than the traditional ways of doing things. I think, again, COVID is a good example of this. We all know that first we had the normal tests for COVID, and it took about a day to get the results from the lab. And now that we have self-tests, they can give you a result in 15 minutes or something like that. So that's of course really beneficial, as it prevents the spread of the coronavirus, as you know the answer sooner. So you can tell the people that you've been in contact with sooner, and it's even a lower threshold to test. Now, another advantage of biosensors is that it can reduce hospital visits, because the patients can just check for themselves at home what they need to check, really. Then it stimulates personalized medicine. A biosensor gives you a lot of data, especially if it's a continuous measurement, and it's really specific to you as a person. So you can use this data, you can analyze this data to optimize treatment for you as an individual, rather than for an entire group of people with the same disease you have, which means that you can actually personalize medicine. Lastly, you can actually rethink the way that healthcare works, because if we are already measuring a lot of things in our body, then we can get an alarm when the slightest thing is off, and we can do something about this before we actually get really, really sick, which means that we can prevent sickness and really rethink the way that we think about health. Now, this is a bit of a more abstract introduction, and now Sanne from Team Test has actually been developing a specific biosensor for the census competition, and she will tell you a bit more about her biosensor. Sanne.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so what we did last year is we developed a real biosensor, and we developed one for influenza A, and specifically the HA1 protein that's on the outside. So we all know this picture probably by now. You see the virus and you see those kind of spikes. Those are proteins, and we catch one of those proteins, and in that way we can see whether a person is infected or not, and we can prevent pandemics like the one we are in right now. So I will take you through the process it takes to develop a biosensor. So first you start with literature, you take all the options that you have, and you think about, okay, what is the criteria? So you want it to be creative, or you want it to be original, but you also have to think about that you have to develop it in 1 year, and of course not everything is possible. So that way you narrow everything down and you come to some or a few options. And the one we chose was a sandwich assay, in which we use particles, and as you saw, the sample can be flipped, and the ones that are bound will keep sticking at the top, so it will flip, and then the ones that are stuck will keep hanging, and the rest will fall down. So once you have the option that you're considering, you need to start designing the whole biosensor around that. So you kind of have 3 main things that you need to design. So you have the biochemical recognition. So the thing that you saw right now, you need to look, okay, which molecules am I going to use for this, which antibodies, everything around that you need to design. And then afterwards you need to make sure that you can detect it. So in our case, we want to take a picture of the particles that are bound, but you need to think about, okay, how can I take this picture? What magnitude do I use? And all the things around that. And then you also need the cartridge, because you need to know, you need to put the sample in, and some things need to happen, and then an outcome needs to come out. So all those 3 things you need to design. And then in the end, everything will come together to a prototype, and you keep improving those prototypes. So for instance, this was our first prototype, was very easy, straightforward, just everything you need, very basic. And then in the end, we improved that and we thought, okay, these are the problems that we have right now, and this is how we're going to solve them. So this was our second prototype. And then in the end, this is our last prototype. It's called the donut because it has a donut shape. And it will show you the inside and all the different spark that you need to design. And of course, this is not perfect. There are still some problems, but for most parts, this works, and we have something that works and that tests influenza. And in that way, we built our biosensor, and there are still a lot more things to improve, which is really cool because you can keep going. But we're really happy that we made something that actually works and tests the virus.
Yes, so that was the presentation of student teams census and test. And we are joined by Daphne. Daphne van Gemen is policy advisor of the TUI Innovation Space. And she is working on the health community in the university. So welcome. And maybe
let me thank you for having me here and this opportunity to tell something about this initiative we are setting up. And so this initiative, a health community, what we'd like to do is that we are responsible for informing, facilitating, inspiring, connecting, and spreading the word about health innovation at the university and the Brainport region. And for who do we do this? For all students that are interested in this and
so
are enthusiastic about
university broad, right? So every faculty.
All university students, but also others that are interested, of course. It's not solely focused on students, but that's where we do it for. But others are also very welcome to join this community.
Yeah, all right. So that sounds really awesome. And can you tell us, I suppose you're going to organize some activities maybe. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we are, of course, we are all setting this up. But what we would like to do is connect students with researchers and companies for working together. And what we'd like to do is also we would like to facilitate challenge-based learning. That's why I'm from Innovation Space are involved. And just those kind of things. And also spread the word with things like lunch lectures or symposia and those kind of activities.
Yeah, so some people that are watching, they might be super enthusiastic right now. So can you tell them already when the first activity or what it will be?
Yeah, so now we are setting this up, and that's it's very good. I really hope that people are enthusiastic and want to know this. And what we are now doing is we would like to form a student board. And when this student board is formed, they will actually do all the work for it's just by students for students, and hopefully as soon as possible, maybe Q2 even. So
that would be very nice. Yeah. And how far are you? Yeah, you said something about the students that you're recruiting. How far are you in the preparations for?
We're still really recruiting. So we have some. You heard from some that they are enthusiastic, but we can also be nice if there are some extra students that.
And if someone's listening right now and wants to join, can they just send you an email or?
It's a good one. We have I think you can send an email to healthcommunity@tui.nl. I hope I say this correctly. And otherwise send an email to me, and then it will also be
very nice.
All right. So you're kind of, as I might say it like this, in the starting up phase of this project. But if you dare to dream, and if you look further in, like, let's see, in 5 years from now, let's move fast forward. What do you want to have achieved by then?
Yeah, that's a nice question. Yeah, I dream then that we really have a vibrant community, and that, well, all students at the university then, when they think of health, they also think of this community. And yeah, it would be really nice if then students can, if they want to do something within the health domain and want to do a course, a health-related course, that they know where to turn to. Because we have the idea that this at the moment is sometimes a bit puzzling, where to turn to, what can we do as a student, and we want to follow a health course, and things like that, and also that maybe we have some opportunities, challenges for students to work extracurricular in a student team, and those kind of things. Yeah, that would be really nice.
Awesome. Yeah.
And if there are some companies that are listening and want to help you out, what kind of companies are you looking for, and what kind of things could they do within the
we're very we would very like to work with companies and have connection. And all companies within the health domain are interested. It would be nice if they can, for instance, to hand in some challenges that students can work on in courses, but also extracurricular. Maybe a bit more the companies on the technology side, as we are the University of Technology, of course. But maybe I think also not only companies, but maybe hospitals that are those kind of. Contact us.
Well, that sounds really promising, and I'm really looking forward to see what you're going to do and where you're going to be in a couple of months from now. So, is there anything else you would like to add, or that you want to say to the viewers?
Maybe. Just contact us if you're really interested, and it's not only me, of course, but we work together with Carmen, who also presented earlier, Noortje Baks from Electrical Engineering and Center for Care and Cure, Joris de Vils from Eindhoven Engine, Sonja Babak, a student assistant that supports us and really has a lot of time and attention in this, and together and with this, we hope really to set up this community, and thanks for this opportunity to say something about
explaining
this.
it, and it's a really nice initiative, and I hope a lot of students and companies will come to you, and that we will make a very nice community inside of the university.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thanks.
We will make sure that the link where to contact you is put on the YouTube stream. As we are now broadcasting live, everything will stay available on YouTube.
Okay, great.
So we'll make sure that we have a link there that people are interested are always able to contact you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And that means that it's time to wrap up, and that we're at the end of the last webinar in this series. So I want to thank you all for watching, and not only this one, but all the others before as well, and all the participation that came with that. I think we had a really nice broad series of webinars where we showed very different aspects of smart cities, and hopefully give you a bit of inspiration and also a bit of knowledge about what's going on in the world of the innovation. I want to thank Innovation Origins and Elke, and also Backstage Frans for helping us set up this webinar, and also Richard Bijlaert for contributing here as well. And all our speakers of today, it's a really long list this time, but Carmen van Vilsteren, Giorgio Moses, Hilde van den Broek, Bram de Moor, Johan de Rooij, Vera Middelkamp, Sanne ten Damme, and Daphne van Gemen. Everyone, very much thank you for your inputs and for the nice stories that you told today. And of course, you viewers, thank you so much for watching us.
I actually want to say the same. Thank you so much for watching, not only on this event, but also on the previous events of the series. And if you want to see this video again or some other videos in the series, you can always go to our YouTube channel and check them out because they're like super interesting. So thank you so much for watching. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Richard?
Just say bye-bye. Thanks for everything.
Bye-bye. Yeah, well, we hope to see you soon again.
Bye.